For those of you just arriving, I want to remind you, please raise your hand if you need a set of earplugs so that our volunteers can get them to you. This is no joke. This is one of the loudest things I have ever heard in my life. I know it's intended for those of you coming in. There are volunteers up here that have earplugs, so please raise your hand. A deaf person will know when this is running and you will feel it vibrating the bones in your chest. All right, everybody, welcome to the hot round. On June 13, 1944, at 4:25 in the morning, the world's first cruise missile landed in England. It was the first of over 10,000 that would be built, and it was also the first terror weapon to be used. Why was it a terror weapon? Well, the noise you're about to hear could be heard from the ground. And it meant that there was something brand new that was flying overhead that no one had ever heard in England before. They didn't really fear it at first, but when the noise stopped, there was a deathly silence and then a huge explosion that just seemed to come out of nowhere. And this was the beginning of the V-1. V-1 because it was known as a vengeance weapon. This engine would be attached to an aircraft made by Pluse. It was a 27-foot mid-wing monoplane. It carried an 1,800-pound payload. The overall craft weighed over 2.5 tons when it was fully loaded. Capable of a speed of 400 miles an hour for a range of between 150 and 250 miles, this would really bring terror to the English people. made by Pluse. It was known as the V-1. Very easily assembled, and actually came in 5 pieces. The wings were made out of wood, later some metal, and they were easily screwed on to shafts of the V-1 and sparks bolted onto the fuselage. It didn't take more than just a few minutes to do that with me. Most of it doesn't create a great deal of thrust, and so this is launched by steam power, catapult, usually a ramp, sometimes a cave. But it could also be got from an airplane, so they used a Heinkel VG-111 to do that. When the engine runs, you're going to notice this distinctive sound that it has. And from the air, the British thought it sounded like a buzz bomb. They gave it a nickname of Doodlebug. Capable of traveling at 10,000 feet, it routinely flew between 2,000 and 3,000 feet. But this was unguided. It did have a compass in the nose, and it did have gyroscopes to try to keep it going in a straight line. It had no ailerons, but it had a rudder and an elevator. And these would be corrected by servos powered by compressed air. Compressed air also put pressure into the fuel tank to keep fuel going into the engine. Now, in 1931, Paul Schmidt looked at the research that had been done actually before the First World War for a pulse jet. He came up with a brilliant idea of using sheet metal and making flaps that are in the very nose where that red ring is that you see up there. And these flaps would open and shut depending on the pressure inside the engine. Now the flaps would actually float between 45 and 50 times every second. And that's what gives this engine its distinctive sound. It's incredibly simple. The tube is hollow. There's no moving parts inside the body of the tube. Fuel is injected, and on top of it, where that red cable is, there's a spark plug. So all you have to do is initiate the first spark, and the engine will continue running. How does it do that? Well, there's a huge flame you're going to see come out of the back of the tube. And as that exits, it creates a pressure differential up front that opens up those flaps and allows fresh air to come in. Once the flames clear the tube, because of that pressure differential, they're forced back up the tube. And by that time, the flaps close, the fuel's pressurized, and it explodes on its own. So as long as the fuel is running, it's self-sustaining. Made by the Argus company, it was known as the AS-014. It was first run in 1944. Didn't create a lot of thrust, about 660 pounds. But later they were able to adjust the fuel injectors to get it up to about 770. But again, that's not a whole lot of thrust. Some of these were captured and brought back to the United States, and Ford actually made a PJ-31. They went on to a fuselage known as a JB2 Loon, and they tested these things. And one of the times that they were using it, they actually put a camera up front. This was kind of the beginning of smart bomb technology. And the Navy tested them right up at Point Magoo. So anyway, get your airplugs ready, but first I want to introduce Steve and Raleigh Salinas, the two gentlemen that are going to make this happen, so please give them a round of applause. All right, so if you guys are ready, let's get a 10-second countdown. You ready for this? All right, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, scene. Have a big round of applause for Stephen Raleigh. I won't go anywhere because as soon as we move this guy, we're going to start flying our Army Airport aircraft that you see lined up here already. We'll have our tank demonstration at 4 o'clock out where the array of creators are.